All right, tonight we're going to talk about first aid and acute symptoms, and I put together some of the most common remedies with homeopathy, herbal, and some miscellaneous items that you might want to think about having in a first aid kit at home. I'm lucky that I have my office in my home now, so anytime I need a first aid remedy, I can pretty much run to my supply, which has been really nice. But I think it's important to have some basic remedies at home, because when you have a first aid or acute thing, kind of like an emergency, you can't always get to what you need. And some of you may be in locations where you don't have like a Whole Foods or health food store nearby. And so when you need that remedy, if you don't have it, you may not be able to get it. And so it might save you from going to the urgent care or emergency room, especially with some of the remedies that actually are pretty fast acting. And homeopathy especially can be like a miracle if it's the best suited remedy, which we're going to talk about some main attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Tonight will not be 2 hours, probably more likely an hour and 15 minutes, depending on questions. So I'm going to get right into the top homeopathic remedies for first aid in acute situations, even though these remedies can be also good sometimes for chronic situations. Arnica it says the #1 remedy for all cases of injury is it also deals with shock. It removes the blood back into the vessels as well. What that means is like you have internal bleeding or you have external bleeding, so it kind of sucks the blood back into the arteries, into the blood vessels. Give arnica first in every first aid situation. It's even fine to give in case of an injury needing an operation. Good for sprains and strains. It also has been cited for severe exhaustion and jet lag. Arnica should not be used on broken skin, as it can cause a rash. So you would not use topical arnica if there's bleeding. And so the things that are underlined on these are some main attributes like injury, shock, sprains and strains, exhaustion, and jet lag. And so those are things to remember. So what I'd recommend with arnica is one thing I definitely would keep on hand, whether it's arnica homeopathic or arnica cream. I have both, and I use both. It seems like I hurt myself all the time with, bumping into something or a bruise or twisting my ankle or something. It's like I'm kind of clumsy and klutzy. So arnica is really good for those things. And so what you always do is give it first. And so if you want to do something, give arnica, and then you can use a secondary remedy after giving arnica. Aconite, these are in alphabetical order, so they're not in order of importance. Aconite, it says, fright is the keynote of this homeopathic remedy when there's a great anxiety and sudden emotions. It's for any complaint that comes on suddenly, especially after exposure to cold, dry, windy conditions. Coughs, colds, chills, fevers that come on suddenly may need this remedy, especially if there's a congested pain with restlessness. It can also be used in an emergency situation for a panic attack. Aconite is also a shock remedy. It can be used for cases of shock, and also when there's fear or fright after an accident, like someone's had a car accident and then they're kind of afraid to drive, or they've had something happen to them and they're afraid of that thing. Like let's say something happened to them swimming and then they're afraid to go swimming. So fear and fright, I would definitely think of aconite. Well, or when the situation seems kind of stuck, like trauma will be stuck to where it didn't clear, like they didn't get over it. They're still talking about it a lot. It's like you kind of know energetically when it's stuck. Apis is for bee stings and insect bites where there's a lot of swelling, for heat, redness, and stinging pains. When the symptoms are worse with cold applications and the symptoms are less with heat. It's also an emergency measure for anaphylactic shock to give on the way to the hospital. So apis is a really good remedy to have around the house because of, when people have swelling or they react to bee stings or they get a bee sting and they're in pain, especially little kids, sensitive to ant bites, mosquito bites, all that stuff. It's just in Texas, you got to have this remedy. Argentum nitricum for fear and anxiety before an event. So like flying and ordeals of any kind, there's a distension of the stomach, burping, palpitations, diarrhea, especially after sweet things. So this is a person who's afraid to fly. This is a person who is having an acute situation because they're thinking about what they are about to have to go do, and it's something they might already have a fear about. Arsenicum album is for cases of food poisoning with diarrhea and vomiting. They feel cold and fearful, frightened to be left alone, and less symptoms between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Complaints after exposure to wet and damp. Arsenicum is also a good remedy when there's a lot of heat, like burning, stinging pain, or when their face is red. So arsenicum is a type of poison, but it's in chicken, treated lumber, stuff like that. But when someone is looking like red hot, like the face is red, stuff like that, they it says feel cold and fearful, but they can also feel very hot and sensitive to heat. So it can be the one on the temperature. Belladonna is for fever with great heat, which follows aconite well. Red, hot skin, dilated pupils, throbbing pains, better with motion, light noise, and jarring. Throbbing headaches and mild sunstroke, it's for those two. Worse from bending backwards, sitting or standing erect, or standing on your feet a long time. Sudden and violent onset of conditions. So if someone, gets that really sudden fever and they feel really bad really quick, and that's when people would normally maybe run to the ER, especially in a child situation, belladonna may be a good choice. Bellus perennis is specific for bruising of soft tissue like the breast and internal organs, ailments after a blow or contusion, good for internal bruising after hysterectomy. It's also called the gardener's friend, as it works well for aches after gardening. You're like stooping down, your ankles are sore, stuff like that. So on this internal bruising after hysterectomy, this can be good for any internal bruising after any surgery, anything like an internal bruising or cutting, like on purpose, like surgery. Bryonia is for dryness. It's a dry remedy for dry fever, dry cough, better with movement, company, or talking. Dry lips, thirsty, irritable, bursting headache, better with any movement, must stay still. Red, swollen, and shiny joints, like the arms, like if the elbows hurt, they'll appear red and shiny. Frozen shoulder, tennis elbow, sciatica, stitching pains worse with pressure, and appendix symptoms which develop slowly. Specific, better with heat, worse with cold. If any of these remedies stand out to you, even for long-standing issues, like as I'm reading them, you're thinking, oh, that would be good for me. It can be that these could be key remedies for you, like this dryness. A lot of people have dry throat, dry cough, dry lips, thirsty, and then they have frozen shoulder, sciatica, so then bryonia would still be a good remedy for you, even if it's not an acute situation. Calendula is one of my favorite acute or remedy herbs. It says the healing remedy. Use the tincture as an antiseptic for all infections and inflammations where flesh is torn. It prevents pus formation. Beware that there's no infection inside the wound or the skin will close up and keep it in. This homeopathic remedy can be bought as a cream and useful for children's cuts and scrapes. What that means is that you would use calendula and also maybe witch hazel are good remedies to have on hand to make sure there's no infection. And then if you use like chickweed or comfrey, which will heal the skin very quickly, you don't want to heal things too quickly sometimes if there's an internal infection. So you want to clean it good first and then use the other natural remedies to heal it fast. So some of the remedies, like even bone set, can be amazing in how fast they can, that they can heal the speed. What am I trying to say? They can speed the healing by 100, 200, 300% in time. But sometimes if you don't want that to happen, like let's say you took one of these remedies and you're healing too fast, but you have like a broken bone or an internal infection, you don't want it to heal too fast because then it becomes like trapped inside. Cantharis is good for bad burns and scalds with blistering, like a hot pot of something spills and scalds someone, these second and third degree burns, and especially with the blistering. It can also be used for pain. Carbo Veg is for air hunger, wants to be fan, but chili. Air hunger is like, it's kind of hard to describe, like, it's almost like your stomach feels empty and you're hungry, but you could have eaten. Like, it's not much after you've eaten, and all of a sudden it feels empty. Wants to be fanned, but it's chilly, like wants a fan going. A bluish color, like you'll see in older people. After near drowning or electric shock, and the patient is cold or blue or lifeless, even like with, what's it called? Like when people, fall in a freezing pool. For indigestion with a lot of wind, and for very low vitality, recovery, convalescence, and aged people. This can be also good for near death, like it says, like lifeless, but literally near death, to give them the vitality to come out of it, or a coma. Causticum is for burns. Take 30C potency, and the pain goes in about 7 minutes. So causticum can be a very fast remedy for pain, but in like burn pain, but for pain in general. So it can be very quick, like it says, 7 minutes, which might be useful too when you're dealing with a child. Chamomilla is a great sensitivity to pain, teething in babies, very irritable. Chamomilla is a great remedy for calming. We'll talk about it again under the other remedies because it's also under the herbal category. China is for any illness where the patient is weak after the loss of vital fluids, like vomiting, hemorrhaging, sweating, diarrhea, distension of the abdomen, flatulence, burping, and discomfort, and for oversensitivity. So they're weak because, because they've been expelling fluids through one of these reasons. Cocculus for seasickness and travel sickness, nausea, dizziness, better with motion, worse after sitting still or laying on the side. So this could be like going on a cruise, people who are in the backseat of a car traveling, something to keep on hand when people have motion sickness. Colocynthis for colic in babies, which is worse from doubling up, like when the baby's kind of in a fetal position, and worse with pressure, also for menstrual colic. Eupatorium is for flu, fever with great thirst, aching, bone pain, bruised and aching muscles in the back, chest, and limbs, scanty sweat, restless, chilly, nausea, weakness. Better with cold air, better 7 to 9 a.m. in motion, or they have a sick headache, nausea at the sight of food, or worse from vomiting. So that remedy is, I thought this one was squirting cucumber, but I'm not sure. Now I'm questioning myself. Okay, gelsemium is also for flu, but no thirst. So you have one where someone has the flu and they're very thirsty. They want something to drink. The other one is for flu, but no thirst. That's going to be your defining difference. Comes on over a couple of days, nerves affected, heaviness in the limbs. Face is a dusky red color with heavy, droopy eyelids. The muscles won't do as they're told. They're kind of like lethargic. Pepper sulf is for eruptions, boils, and infection of the nails. Like around the cuticles, they get infected, they're red, they look angry. Ailments that are made worse by a draft of air, abscesses, sensitive to touch, sore throats and earaches that have a yellow discharge, pain that is like splinter-like. Hypericum is a homeopathic remedy for injuries that are rich in nerves like fingers and toes, specific for injury to the coccyx. Use the tincture or cream for very painful cuts, grazes, and burns. Grazes would be like road rash. Also use tincture as an antiseptic as it prevents tetanus. Perfect for puncture wounds. So hypericum would be your remedy instead of running to get a tetanus shot. Hypericum would be in my must-have in my, if I'm going to have, I'll recap in a minute but on homeopathy, but definitely you want arnica, definitely you want hypericum. There's a few that you definitely want to have on hand because if you smash your finger with a hammer, you're going to want hypericum for fast relief. Ignatia is for emotional mental stress with grief, worry, and disappointment. Characteristic singing, that should say singing, not signing. Moody, illness after a loss or shock. Anger, and then suppressed tears or emotions after a loss. Lump in the throat, which could affect swallowing. So someone's like a mental emotional case, and they're also, especially after loss, like there's someone just died or something like that, or after divorce, Ignatia can be a great remedy. Ipecac is a famous remedy for colic with nausea, giddiness, vomiting, profuse saliva, any complaint where there's strong nausea and no thirst. Ivocac's a good remedy too to have on hand, like when you're traveling to like another country. It's a well-known remedy for diarrhea and stomach complaints. Ledum is also for puncture wounds like hypericum, which are cold to the touch, wounds from rusty nails, bites, needles, wasp stings. It prevents post-injury infections and aches and pains that are worse with ice. Another thing that isn't in here, but I should have put in here for ledum, is for tick bites. Ledum is one of the top remedies for Lyme disease at high potency. So ledum is a good remedy if you're a camper, like hiking in the mountains, or you're someplace that has a lot of ticks. Magphos, or magnesium phosphate, is for bad cramping pains, which are worse with heat and pressure and doubling up, especially menstrual period pain. So any kind of cramping pains, Charlie horses, leg cramps, restless leg, all that stuff, Magphos could be a good choice. Mercurius, which is the homeopathic remedy for mercury, is for any kind of pus situations, bad breath, offensive, profuse sweating, like stinky feet, stinky underarm sweat, excessive saliva, thick yellow discharge, like the pussy stuff, sore throats, ear pain, throat infections, especially any of these that have a discharge after the pus is formed. So if someone's got that smelly ear stuff, like even your pets, you could try Mercurius. Nux vomica is great for hangovers, illness after too much rich food, worse from fresh air and better indoors. It's for when people are chilly and irritable, and fever when every movement causes shivering, even when wrapped up, or piles, which also means hemorrhoids. Nux vomica is also for overindulgence. Nux vomica can be like, you know, you go out and have a really rich meal, like a ribeye and a baked potato and wine and dessert, and then you feel awful. Hangover is not just alcohol hangover. There can be a food hangover. You know, you had too much sugar, stuff like that, and you wake up the next day just feeling bad. Nux vomica is considered the remedy for the ailments of modern life, which is, you know, too much coffee, too much wine, too much rich foods, fatty foods, you know, stuff like that. Overindulgence, basically. Phosphorus is the after effects of an anesthetic or anesthesia, particularly after injections for dental treatment, jet lag, dry, irritating cough, loss of voice, craves ice cream and ice cold drinks. Some people want something cold all the time, and they have this dry, like, that's not the only remedy for that, though. There's another one that's not in here is pertussis. And pertussis can be a good remedy for that dry, irritating cough, too, where someone's just kind of, you know, they're always like, they're not really coughing up anything. It's just like this, like, dry, chronic cough. Okay, pulsatilla is for earaches, weepiness, clinging, dependent, whining. This is a good children remedies. People consider it really a female remedy. Craves attention, craves fresh air, likes the windows open, very changeable and contradictory, which means like their mood change. They're happy, then they're not, then they're sad, then they're crying. And they say pulsatilla is like the wind, or a wind vane, so it's kind of like your mood changes with the wind. No thirst, and cough worse after vinegar. So this could be after, you know, Italian dressing, pickles, vinegary stuff would make their cough worse. Pulsatilla is, you think of like the kind of moody, weepy person who wears their emotions on their sleeve. Okay, rust tox is the famous chickenpox, not chickenpox, well, chickenpox too, but poison ivy remedy. Aches and pains, which are less after first movement, but worse with continued movement. So this would be the person who has rheumatoid arthritis. They get up in the morning and they're stiff, or like they, what was I going to say? So it's like they get up and get going, they're fine, but after continued movement, they're not fine, which is one type of like inflammatory arthritis. Restless often stops the irritation of chickenpox, but think poison ivy. That's the most, I mean, if you're around poison ivy, if you live on like a farm or in the country and you're sensitive to poison ivy, you should definitely keep rust tox on hand. Root de grave is for strains, tendons, ligaments, and cartilage, bone injuries, dislocations, and eye strain, and worse from carrying things. Sulfur is a famous remedy for boils, inflammation, people who are hot, like I said with arsenic, burning pains, offensive discharges, worse from sun, overexertion, and alcohol, and good for blows, like a blow to the head or blow to the back, like something hit you, like a tree limb fell on you, falls, and bed sores. So this could be good for an elderly person who is, you know, or any person really that has to stay in bed for some reason, like even some pregnancies. Sulfur can also, most skin conditions, you should probably consider sulfur first. So these are, I didn't put complete descriptions because each one of these are pages long, but any skin condition, I would think of sulfur. Silica for splinters, it promotes the rejection of thorns, glass, etc. And it's also used for boils, abscesses. It should not be used if the patient has anything artificial in the body, like a new hip joint, pacemaker, that may cause rejection. So that's something to know. Also, silica can be great for people who have not great hair and nails and skin. It's a good remedy for skin in general. And then rescue remedies under this, because there is rescue remedy that's Bach or batch flower essences, but there are also rescue homeopathic remedies, like Hannah Kroger has one. And this is generally for loss, shock, fright, upset. You know, someone's just had an emotional meltdown, someone's just been in a car wreck. It kind of can be like aconite, or she also has a shock remedy. But rescue remedy is kind of like, even if someone has an ongoing stressful situation, like a divorce, dealing with their accountant, dealing with the IRS, dealing with being audited, rescue remedy can help, like shake it off so they can get on to the next day or the next round of, you know, whatever they're dealing with. I see some questions, so before moving on to herbs, let me just see what the questions are or comments. For phosphorus, yes, you can use cell salt of phosphorus if you have one that's the magphos or calsphos. So there's 12 cell salts, and yes, you can use it in that form. And rust tox, would it be good for shingles? Yes, it can be good for shingles. And Kroger Herbs has a newer vibropathic for shingles specifically, but you can use also the chickenpox vibropathic, rust tox, or the shingles vibropathic, since I know Gaia knows Hannah's stuff. Okay, so I'll keep going. So these are just some miscellaneous remedies to keep on hand in a first aid kit. Activated charcoal is, you can get it in a tub. I have Dr. Christopher's activated charcoal, but you can get straight activated charcoal online or at a health food store. And this is great for acute use in food poisoning, like, someone gets into, you know, under the kitchen cabinet like a child, and they've already swallowed the poison, and if you can get the activated charcoal in them, like force them to drink it, it will absorb the poison. It's good for, that's actually what hospitals use, is activated charcoal. Intestinal illness, vomiting, diarrhea, ingestion of toxins. Also keep the local poison control number on hand in case a child ingests a toxic substance, and immediately take a child to the hospital if he or she hasn't swallowed a battery or magnet. So in that case, you should take them anyway, but some people are not right by a hospital. If you had activated charcoal, you could start with that until you get them to the hospital, because you want to get it out of their stomach. Or see, what activated charcoal does is it acts like a sponge, and it absorbs the poison, so it's not going through the intestines. And it'll go through the intestines, but then activated charcoal has already kind of neutralized the situation. Arnica cream or ointment is a topical cream used for muscle pain or injury, bruises, or any type of trauma. It's been found that it greatly reduced healing time or bruises and sore muscles when used topically right after injury. It's not for internal use or open cuts. So I have a story about this. I use the Be Gone arnica for bruises. It's called Bruises and Bumps. And I have other forms of arnica. I have the, what's that other brand? Boron arnica cream. I have like 8 different types because I was in Vegas earlier this year. My mom's suitcase fell on my foot. It swelled up the size of a cantaloupe. The Vegas airport's about 3 minutes from Whole Foods. I knew that. I went straight to Whole Foods because I didn't have the cream with me because I was taking her to the airport. Got the arnica cream and homeopathic tablets, took both, and y'all should have seen my foot. It looked bad. I didn't miss anything. I should have not been walking because it was like this 50-pound suitcase, and the corner of it hit my foot right in the center of the top of my foot. And I'll be dang if I wasn't in Boulder a month later. I was playing Frisbee. I was there for my daughter's graduation, twisted my ankle to the point that the whole thing turned black and blue and I couldn't walk. Ran to the store again, got some arnica, same story, just a month later. There should be some kind of clue telling me something. Put the cream on, took the pills. I couldn't walk. My foot looked even worse than the Vegas incident. I was hiking the next day in the mountains. I mean, just night and day of being out of commission, but it's important to get it on right away. Like, I'll stop what I'm doing. And in those 2 cases, I didn't have it with me because I wasn't at the hotel. I wasn't at home. I was traveling. But within 5 to 10 minutes, I was at a store, had it on me and in me, and didn't miss anything because of it. But if you wait like 3 days and go, oh, this isn't really getting better, maybe I should do something, it doesn't work near as good. It's definitely something you want to have on hand. Tripped in my front yard. Probably should have, I tripped bad, like skin rash, road rash bad. Went tumbling, running full speed, chasing one of my dogs because he had run out in the street. Ate it, had road rash everywhere, had bone coming out through my elbow, rubbed myself down with arnica, and amazingly the next day it was like I hadn't fallen. Weird. So you can do things that are like a miracle, but if I hadn't done it in the moment, I had stuff on me in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But if you don't have that opportunity, your experience with that kind of fall would be much different. I'm not a fast healer. It's just that I've learned that if I do anything to myself, even get a bruise, I have something on it as soon as I realize I did that. Just makes a big difference. Cayenne powder, or you can use cayenne capsules or cayenne spice, like the ground, fresh, not fresh cayenne, but the kind you use as a spice. It says, though this is a good addition to many foods, it's even better to have in a medicine cabinet. Topically, cayenne powder helps stop bleeding rapidly. It's one of those things that if you have cayenne powder handy and someone's bleeding, you could stop the bleeding by putting the powder on where they're bleeding. There have been cases of cayenne being taken internally during heart attacks to increase blood flow and help clear blockage. So this could be the difference of saving someone's life or not. And it's also a useful remedy to take internally during illnesses and increases blood flow and speeds recovery. Cayenne is well known for all of its cardiovascular benefits, including blood clots. Even if someone had a concussion, it might be a good choice. But if someone's in a heart attack or stroke and you see it happening, if you can get them to get the cayenne powder, it's hot, so capsules may be beneficial, but even the powder in that kind of case, you're going to open the blood vessels so that even maybe averting death, but also their recovery from the stroke or heart attack, which sometimes can be permanent, may be averted. Chamomile is a great thing to have. You can buy the box of tea bags and use the tea bags for lots of things, but it says you can make a relaxing tincture. You can just use the tea bags if you want, or buy chamomile tincture at like a health food store. There's several brands that sell chamomile tincture. It's nice to have on hand because it's more concentrated than the chamomile tea bags. It helps calm kids if they're ill or just have trouble sleeping, so you can add it to something like grape juice or some kind of juice. The tincture also works wonders on teeth and gums. The dried flowers can also be made into a poultice with some gauze and placed on an eye for 15 minutes every hour to reverse pink eye rapidly. Usually works in a couple hours. So what you would do here is you would get your tea bag wet and use the tea bag as a poultice, because a poultice just means you have the herb and you have something like a cheesecloth or something where you can get the herb wet and you apply it wet to the, whatever, to the surface. So what you would do is just get your tea bag wet, lay it on their eye for 15 minutes every hour, and then the pink eye would be gone. Brewed is a tea. Chamomile's relaxing drink at night, and the tea can be cooled and rubbed on the stomach of colicky infants to help soothe them. Again, you can, if it's a baby infant, you can get the tea bag wet and put the wet tea bag on their belly button, and it'll soak in and take care of the being colicky. Chickweed is best known for its ability to cool inflammation and speed healing for an internal and external flare-ups. Chickweed tea is an old remedy for obesity, and wise women and herbalists still drink tea as a fresh chickweed is one of the classic spring tonics to cleanse their blood. Chickweed poultices are useful for cooling and soothing minor burns, skin irritations, and rashes, particularly when associated with dryness and itching. Chickweed is in most salves. I'm going to talk about specific products at the end, but chickweed and comfrey are almost every healing salve there is. They're like mountain remedies. And if you can get any of these in tea bags, they're kind of become automatic poultices. If you can't get them in a tea bag, you can get them in a fresh herb, and you can put them in something like a thin cloth, like an old T-shirt, and get that wet and put that, tied off with either a tie wrap or those little things that, have on, like, the little metal things that are tie wrap, not a tie wrap, but the thing that's on like a loaf of bread, and put that around your old T-shirt, get the herb wet, and use that as a poultice. Comfrey is an external herb that promotes healing from injuries and broken bones. A poultice made with plantain and comfrey that's placed on a wound can greatly reduce the healing time and help prevent or reverse infection. You can make a homemade neosporin with this and other herbs and use it on bug bites, cuts, bruises, and poison ivy. It's best to keep the dried herb on hand for poultices and homemade salves. Comfrey is just awesome. Comfrey and plantain grow pretty wild. I mean, if you're in a big suburban area, you're probably not going to have it, but almost anyone in the country has comfrey and plantain growing wild. You can go online and look for pictures. Plantain is really common, just like dandelion. Eucalyptus herb and essential oil. It's for respiratory type problems. You can use eucalyptus herb in a face steam for congestion or sinus troubles. It can make a mild and petroleum-free version of vapor rub for coughing and respiratory illness. The essential oil can be diluted with coconut oil or olive oil and be applied externally to the feet and chest to help open nasal passages. So just like vapor rub, you can put the eucalyptus herb or peppermint oil, too, works really good, right on the chest, like rub it into the chest or rub it into the feet. Also rubbed into the feet, any of these herbs that are like eucalyptus or peppermint are also good for reducing fever. So eucalyptus, peppermint herb or eucalyptus herb are both really good to have on hand for respiratory congestion and fevers. You can even put this on babies, and you can put it directly on their feet, just a few drops to bring down a fever pretty quickly. So it's something you definitely want to have on hand. Ginger capsules, but it can also be ginger tea bags or fresh ginger. It's great for nausea, stomach troubles, and morning sickness. Also very useful for motion sickness, and it helps soothe the stomach after digestive illness or food poisoning. Ginger should not be underestimated either for its anti-inflammatory action. I was on a cruise once, and I had taken a big bag of crystallized ginger for some friends that have motion sickness, and they don't like the side effects of Dramamine because it makes you really drowsy and makes you feel kind of sick in another way. So I took the ginger, and it was me that fractured my wrist like 2 days into the cruise, and it swelled up bad. I went and got it x-rayed at the boat, and they said I had fractured it. And of course, he gave me painkillers and anti-inflammatories, and I was like, no thanks, I got ginger in my room. And he kind of looked at me like I was an idiot and was like, oh yeah, you're going to need the painkillers and anti-inflammatories. And I said, no, I'm not. And I was popping crystallized ginger, like, not a lot, but like, 1 cube of it, like every hour or two. I never did take the medications, and the swelling went down in like 24 hours, like on its own. And the funny thing is that boat doctor saw me like 2 days later, and he was kind of like grinning, like, oh yeah, I can see you took the meds. And I'm like, nope, I didn't. He couldn't believe it. he was like, there's no way you went through a fractured wrist and didn't take those meds. And I'm like, I told you I took ginger. So it's equal to Vioxx or other prescription anti-inflammatories if you take enough of it. It's also really good for digestive aids, like if someone has an upset stomach, and also colicky stomach. Echinacea is like very super famous. Any kind of illness really, that, especially if there's an infection involved. I don't use it as a first resort, but it's helpful in prolonged illness. The reason I use it well, I do use it sometimes first resort, but sometimes other things come to mind, and you're not supposed to use echinacea forever. Some people have found that they're taking echinacea because they think they should take it for long periods of time, but actually your body can become immune to that if you're taking echinacea regularly, so you should not take it regularly. But it helps fight infection. It's a great antiviral and immune stimulant. So if someone does have, like, someone told them they have the flu is a virus, but any virus does not respond to antibiotics. So taking antibiotics for a virus is just stupid. So, but you would take echinacea for like a virus when you may not have another option. But when you determine that it's a virus or is an immune stimulant. Peppermint herb and essential oil, it's kind of similar to the eucalyptus, but it says it's another great digestive herb for upset stomach or digestive illness. The herb is made into a tea. The tincture can be used internally or externally for headaches or digestive troubles, and when combined with a few other digestive herbs, it makes a highly effective digestive aid and nausea remedy. The essential oil applied behind the ears and on the feet helps alleviate headache or nausea, also migraines. And a wheat tea, like a peppermint tea bag made from the herb and rubbed on the skin, can help soothe a colicky baby. You could also try the getting a peppermint tea bag wet and putting it on their belly, on their belly button area, and that will help a lot with a baby that is colicky. And you can also use the essential oil in homemade toothpaste. Like if you're trying to flavor a baking soda type toothpaste, peppermint oil is a good choice. You only need a little bit because it's very potent. Plantain is good to have a loose herb on hand. It grows in most places in the summer, which I mentioned. You've probably pulled it as a weed without knowing it. It's a natural remedy for poison ivy, cuts, scrapes, bites, and bee stings. Plantain can immediately relieve the pain. A poultice can be used for bite, stings, cuts, and infection. It's been used for a confirmed brown recluse bite, and a combination of plantain and comfrey and a poultice kept the bite from eating away the tissue and helped it heal completely. If you've ever known someone with a brown recluse bite, it can make them chronically ill, and it's like a necrosis. It eats away at the skin. It's like a flesh-eating situation with the venom of brown recluse, but these can be used together. The plantain leaf is a certain way that it actually, I'm going to get out of here for a second because we have time. I'll have to find that spot again, but I just want to show you what plantain looks like, because the way the leaf is, you can use the leaf as its own kind of poultice. You just kind of bend it up a little bit, so you, I'll show you what it looks like, because most of you have seen this. There, that's like what the weed looks like. Here's another version. So see how the leaf is kind of big and fat? So if you kind of, rub the leaf between your hands or make cuts in it, you can actually apply that directly to the skin, or dip that plantain leaf in hot water, and then after you put it in hot water and you've activated it, then put the plantain leaf directly on your skin. And it'll work really good for cuts and scrapes and burns and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so let me try to find back on this PowerPoint where that was. Oh, not too bad. I didn't get too far off. Okay, slippery elm is helpful for sore or irritated throat, or when you lose your voice. The herb itself can be used in tinctures or teas for sore throat relief. That one's usually sold as a tincture. Apple cider vinegar is like the Bragg's natural apple cider vinegar. It's handy for digestive troubles, indigestion, food poisoning, and more. Taken in a dose of 1 teaspoon per 8 ounces of water every hour. It helps shorten the duration of any type of illness, so it's tough to get kids to take it willingly. Natural raw local honey can be added as a natural antibacterial and for better flavor. So you could do like 1 part apple cider vinegar, 1 part raw honey, and it's a lot easier to get down. Or you can put that combination into like a Dixie cup, like use a shot glass and do 1 ounce of each, and then just have them shoot the remedy and then drink the water or drink juice or something to chase it. Both apple cider vinegar and raw honey are both natural, like antipathogen, antipathogen remedies, and they work really good too for alkalizing the body. Vitamin C can be helpful for all illnesses, especially flu-related, and boosting the immune system. It's useful to keep on hand. It's helpful to take vitamin C when run down to boost the immune function or when something is going around. Like when people say, oh yeah, that's going around, that stomach bug or that flu or that whatever, increase to 5,000 milligrams per day, but decrease of diarrhea starts. The way you get to the right dose of vitamin C based on like your age and weight is to, take 1,000 milligrams, and then I would increase by like 500 milligrams until you get to the point of a little diarrhea, and then back down 500 milligrams, and that should be the right dose. And do that when you feel run down, when you feel like you're catching the stuff going around, when the kids are bringing home stuff from daycare or school, and it will boost your energy, your vitality, and your immune function. Aloe vera plant's a great thing to grow at your house or have. I have one that's really big, and it's great for topical burns, blisters. Most people know it's good for sunburn. Aloe juice can be taken orally for digestive problems, acid symptoms, and also ulcers. In fact, aloe vera is one of the top remedies for gastric ulcers. And what you would do is you can buy aloe vera juice, but if you have the aloe vera plant, you peel off that hard outside part and you eat the inside part. And I would not mix it with stuff. It actually doesn't have a bad taste. You can just, take the pieces of aloe and eat it, and it's really great for the stomach, healing the gut. Epsom salt is good to have around as a bath soak for sore muscles. Most people know that. And dissolved in water, it can also be used as a good soak to help remove splinters. So if you don't have the other remedies for splinters, then Epsom salt would be a good choice, like in a small amount of water. Hydrogen peroxide is on here, and there's 2 types of hydrogen peroxide. I'm going to talk about both. The hydrogen peroxide you buy at most places is not food grade, but it is still useful for cleaning out wounds and keeping them clean. It can help prevent ear infections and shorten duration of respiratory illness. At the first sign of an ear infection or illness, use a dropper full of hydrogen peroxide and put in the ear, and then you leave it in for 15 minutes or until it stops bubbling, and then repeat on the other side. The best way to do this is to lay on the bed, and the ear that's facing up, you're going to do that ear first, lay there for 15 minutes, and then rinse the ear with an ear bulb of clean warm water afterwards. A lot of times it's a great remedy too for fungus in the ear or candida in the ear, and it may also help with blocked ears or swimmer's ear. I had, over Memorial Weekend, I had this happen where my ear was kind of clogged, and after 3 days I couldn't clear it after swimming. And I did this, and it cleared it out, and used the bulb to like kind of irrigate. I'll get to the food-grade hydrogen peroxide in a few minutes, but it's definitely very different than the hydrogen peroxide you buy at the drugstore. I would recommend you buy the food-grade hydrogen peroxide if you're going to use it orally for gingivitis or other issues that the internal hydrogen peroxide can be used for. Witch hazel is useful for cuts, scrapes, and cosmetic uses. It makes a great skin toner and astringent. It's great for puffy eyes. It's a skin refresher, and it's good for reducing pore size and for reducing the appearance of varicose veins. It's also good for healing bruises, cleansing and soothing wounds, and new moms can use it for postpartum bottom, like where there's irritation, vaginal chafing, stuff like that. The one thing I'll say, though, too, is I put down appearance varicose veins. It's not really just the appearance. It's an astringent, and what an astringent means is tightening. So it's not just superficially helping with varicose veins. It's a natural, like, topical constrictor, which in this case is a good thing. So if someone's is a beauty aid, but also the varicose veins, it's acting as a constrictor because varicose veins are close to the surface of the skin. Gelatin is a good thing to have in hand. That says that there's natural gelatin in homemade chicken soup. any kind of soup that you boiling the bones, there's natural gelatin, and it's one of the things that's so nourishing during illness. But you can also buy gelatin, and get gelatin in other ways, like buying capsules or gelatin powder. So during any type of illness, gelatin can help the afflicted in various ways, in foods, homemade jello, smoothies, and hot tea. I have a gelatin, or you can buy collagen powder too, which is high naturally in gelatin. After surgeries or when there's especially bad cuts that might scar, gelatin can speed skin healing, and there's evidence that it's effective in improving blood clotting when used externally on a wound. Baking soda, I was going to say one more thing about gelatin. If someone really wants, it's also good for anti-aging, good for skin, hair, nails, all that stuff, especially when people are have, you know, the low, not low, thin, like really, like the hair's falling out, breaking, the nails are thin, you know, they're not thick, they're not healthy. Gelatin can be really beneficial. Baking soda is a good remedy to have on hand for severe heartburn or urinary tract infections. 1/4 of a teaspoon can be taken internally to help alleviate quickly. It can also be made into a poultice and used on spider bites. Baking soda can also be used to make your own natural toothpaste. But if you're dealing with heartburn, acid issues, GERD, reflux, baking soda is an excellent thing to have on hand. You just put 1/4 of a teaspoon in water, but you might need a full teaspoon depending on how bad the acid is. Like if you are very acidic and you have a very acidic habit of foods, like, you know, lots of coffee, sodas, teas, meats, not enough vegetables, stuff like that, then baking soda can be really helpful. It's like thinking of like a natural Alka-Seltzer, but without any other added stuff in it. Probiotics are super beneficial. There's so many great things to say about probiotics and first aid. Most people think of it more as a maintenance item, but they can be really good in first aid. Probiotics are great during any illness and after the illness to repair the gut bacteria. I've seen clients improve skin conditions with regular use of probiotics, and I especially recommend them to pregnant mothers as newborn babies receive their gut bacteria from the mother. And this can make a tremendous difference if the baby will get ear infections or illness in the first few months. For children who get constant illness and ear infections, probiotics can also really help. And I've also had some cases of clients that have been on trips and they've contacted me because they got a hold of something bad like dysentery, Montezuma's revenge, like kind of dysbiosis issues. And, you know, there's in another country, they don't have a first aid kit with them, even though some of my clients now travel with stuff. I had some guys that just went on a trip to 3 different countries, including India, and I had told both of them, you got to take a probiotic with you, because if you're going to get something, it's going to be somewhere like India, Egypt. Certain countries are notorious for getting sick. Africa, definitely want to have probiotics within your bag. And if someone's traveling and, you know, they don't know where a health food store is, but they can go to like the local pharmacy and get probiotics, and then that can be the difference of ruining their trip or saving their trip and not waiting. And then you don't want to wait either when you get back from a trip when you've gotten something like food poisoning, because I had a friend of mine that went to the Cayman Islands last Thanksgiving, and she got sick on the first day of her trip, and she was kind of scared to go to any local doctors or medical treatment places, and so she did nothing. She ended up going from the airport in Houston to ER, and she was in the hospital 5 days. Her kidneys have shut down because she was so dehydrated. If she just had probiotics and a few basic things with her, or even if she would have contacted me, I could have told her what to get, you know, to have the hotel get for her. And I mean, 5 days in the hospital, you have a pretty severe infection. Coconut oil can be found just about anywhere, grocery stores, health food stores. It can, even in her case, coconut oil could have been a good choice. It can be used as a homemade skin salve. It can be used as a base of a salve. It can be used as a diaper cream, and also put lanolin as a good choice for that, because lanolin is just sheep fat. There's no added ingredients. It can be really good for lots of things. Coconut oil can be used as a natural makeup remover, as an antifungal treatment, like putting it around infected toenails, fingernails, for dry skin, and as an emollient for hot spots, dry patches of skin. I keep some of the first aid kit for topical remedies. I mean, I have it in the kitchen, so it's not really in the first aid kit, but you want to have it at home. You can add it just about any herb to coconut oil for a topical use. So let's say you have coconut oil, I have the cream one, the one that's in a jar. And if you have a tincture or herb that you need, but you want it topically, coconut oil or olive oil can be a great base. You just add your herb, and then there you have a salve, like immediately. It can be used for dry skin and chapped lips, and there's growing evidence that daily consumption of coconut oil can help protect against Alzheimer's and nourish the thyroid. Coconut oil is a natural antibacterial and antifungal. Just one word of warning, coconut oil is not great for blood type O's or people who have an issue digesting fats. So sometimes people get on the paleo diet and they go crazy with coconut oil, and that can be a bad thing as far as shooting the cholesterol up and gaining weight. It is actually a super good remedy for Alzheimer's. They've seen dramatic improvement in Alzheimer's cases, and it's used therapeutically for Alzheimer's. But I wouldn't just go take 1/4 of a cup of coconut oil a day because someone says to. In fact, I'm blood type O, and I wouldn't do it at all. But I would use it topically as a salve and as a first aid remedy. It can be beneficial for other blood types, just not blood type O. Some other things to definitely have on hand, since we're talking about first aid and acute issues, is butterfly bandages, gauze, super glue. This might surprise you, but I actually think this is a good idea. It's for minor to moderate skin cuts, not puncture wounds. You can use super glue and butterfly bandages. I've used this instead of stitches several times, and it healed faster and less scarring than the places I've had stitches. Especially good for face and other visible areas that scar easily and are in hair, or where other bandages can be difficult to apply. I've also used it on fingertips or knuckles or other places where Band-Aids don't stay well. Like on a knuckle, it's hard to get something to stay. And it might surprise you, but I'm anti-emergency room and anti-stitches anyway at this point, so I wouldn't go do it unless I'm unconscious. But super glue, if you have 2 people, if you can get something together, maybe use something to stop the bleeding, clean it out real good first, dry it. It can be really great. You just, you'll know when you can use it or not. If you have the puncture wound or this big thing that's bleeding all over the place, you don't want to use super glue because you could have internal bleeding. But I'm talking about, a more small to moderate cut. You can cut off wool sleeves or old T-shirts to use as covering bandages or used for salve or poultices. And then ACE bandages are good for wrapping or holding ice packs in place. So it's nice to have those in advance when you need them, like the kind you'd use to wrap a knee. I have those in the bathroom. I've used them so many times for things like even just holding things in place. A hot water bottle, like the old kind that people used to put in the bed. And an enema kit, which can be very useful, especially for certain conditions where you can use, you might see online, you have a black strap molasses or some kind of enema that is necessary for some condition. Then the enema kit will come in handy. The bulb syringe for the noses and the ears, you can get these at CVS or Walgreens, and they're a few bucks, or Walmart. Assorted bandages and gauze, that's like common sense. You can make a homemade ice pack if you don't have one, out of freezing liquid dish soap or rubbing alcohol. But you can also use like frozen vegetables like peas as a impromptu ice pack if you don't have one. And then I highly recommend that you have a neti pot at home, and they're not expensive either, for sinus, allergies, congestion, and blockage. And you can use these with Himalayan salt, which I recommend you have on hand too. Himalayan salt never expires. A 2-pound box is like $36, and it'll literally last you a lifetime if you're using it for acute remedies. But you just have no idea how often you might use it until you have it and understand what all the uses are, which we'll cover here in a minute. Okay, so I want to check in with you guys, see if you have any questions up to this point, or if I've missed anything that you really like at home as a first aid or acute remedy thing. please share it with us. I put together the things that, kind of I could think of without doing a lot of research on the things that I've learned. What you would do to do that is you can either raise your hand by clicking the raise hand next to your name, or you can send something in the chat. So if you open the chat box, you can type, and I'll see it, and I'll read it out loud to whatever you come up with. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, we got to that. Okay, so during the month of June, the rest of this month, I'll be offering 10% off any remedies that are considered first aid and acute remedies, and there'll be free shipping. So I'm going to go through the ones that are like the ones that I think are must-haves and some of my favorite remedies by brand name. Even if you've ordered them somewhere else, these are my favorite remedies that are in my bathroom, that I use all the time. So food-grade hydrogen peroxide, I send it with instructions. Actually, I would also tell you where to order this, but it's food-grade hydrogen peroxide can be used for everything from toenail fungus to cleaning your fruits and vegetables. A 32-ounce bottle, it's a 35% solution that you dilute to 3%. So a 32-ounce bottle is like having gallons of the kind you buy at the pharmacy. And for any kind of infection or any kind of rinse or cleansing agent, it's just unbeatable. I mean, just really, really awesome, incredible. It can be used successfully for candida, parasites, bacterial infections, staph, strep, all those things. And it has a little 3-page thing that comes with it that tells you how to dilute it and what all you can use it for. Himalayan salt, I send it with a mason jar because you're not supposed to dilute it in plastic, and it keeps forever in the mason jar. Plus, it's a 2-pound box, so like I said, for even a family, it would last quite a long time. And I send it with instructions on how to make the Himalayan Soleil. So this can be used for any kind of skin conditions, acne with kids, also parasites, candida, anything topical that you want to spray where you you don't have to have food-grade peroxide and Himalayan salt. You could pick one or the other. I like Himalayan salt a little bit better for doing oral detox because some people just don't like the taste of peroxide at all. They kind of gag. So for that, if I was going to choose one between these two, I would use the Himalayan salt. Both of them last forever, but I just think they both have very similar uses. And I send instructions so you have all that, when you get the product. Osha root syrup is my go-to for the first sign of anything like a scratchy throat, respiratory, drainage, feeling sick, feeling flu-like, feeling bad, feeling yucky, having a fever, anything. It's a 4-ounce bottle. If I have a little bit of cough, if I start feeling kind of at the end of the day like, oh, what is that? Like I might have something. I take it, sleep like a baby. Next day, I feel like I don't have anything. It is really awesome to have on hand because if you take it as soon as you feel something, it will never develop into anything. But if you try to take Osha root like the 4th or 5th day into something, I found it doesn't work as good. But it's one of my favorite products of any of my products. All Heal Salve is a topical salve. It's in a little 2-ounce jar, and it is like a traditional like mountain man salve. It's great for any topical skin issue, including cuts, scrapes, hot spots on pets, herpes, shingles, skin cancer, dry and itchy skin, used on cuts, bruises, rashes, or anything else an antibiotic ointment can be used on. I put the prices on here. These are the prices before a discount. I have 5 bottles of this open in my house right now. Like I use it on my dogs. I use it on me. I use it on every little thing, and it's incredible. Anyone that ever buys this, they always make sure they have it on hand because you just use it for everything. Rescue Naturopathic is one of Hannah's remedies. It is like the rescue remedy, and it's the one to take immediately after injury or trauma or stressful events. It's $10. It's awesome just to have, just because. And by the way, on some of the other months I did these webinars. I usually offer 15 or 20% discounts, but some of these products are not marked up even 10%. Like the Rescue Vibropathic or the All Heal Salve, and even the Ocean Root Syrup. So they're just not marked up enough with the free shipping to offer a bigger discount. Then this is my favorite ointments besides the All Heal Salve. These are the Be Gone products by Washington Homeopathic, and there's 5 that I carry. They have more, but you can go to homeopathyworks.com. I'll pull up that website in a minute. Bruises and Bumps is the one that I used after I fell on my street and thought I was going to die. But that one contains arnica, and even my sister, who was having some weird leg stuff, and my brother, who has like neuropathy pain, even though it's not really for neuropathy, it is awesome. I mean, people who have like pain, especially after injury, that nothing else really helps, it's awesome. I can't even tell you how good this product is. Cuts and scrapes, it contains calendula, which I love for cuts and scrapes. I've never tried personally the minor arthritic pain, but I have some clients that swear by it. They'll buy 2 or 3 tubes at a time, and this one contains rutagrave, rustox, and arnica, and it's good for like putting on the joints and all around. If you have scars or trying to reduce scars, this works best on newer scars. If someone has scars that are like 30 years old, I found really nothing really helps. But for new scars, new injuries, injury sites, this one called Scars is excellent. And the one for warts and tired feet with Thuja is really, really good too. I've had some people use it successfully with warts. Just because I want to go there and not forget about it, I'll go to Washington Homeopathics because there's a few things I want to show you from this website that you might want to check out later. This is the Washington Homeopathics website, and they have a few things I want to talk about. So these Be Gone products here that are like scratch and itch, hay fever, poison ivy, these products are excellent, and I found that they work really, really good in all the ones that I've tried and all the ones that I've used with clients. If you want to order them direct from Washington Homeopathics, let me just go here. Here's the combination remedies that are for specific conditions like colds, allergies, pain, skin, stomach, and stress. So I would just go to colds and allergies. There's the ones here that you can buy that you can have in advance, like dry eyes, cold and cough, flu-like symptoms, hay fever, head cold, sinus congestions. You see they have like specialty products. And then the ones that I carry, all of them are these. These are the ones I just read out to you, the Be Gone ointments. And there's 5, and I carry all of these because they're so popular. Another thing from Washington Homeopathics are I want to show you the kits, because this is a good way to get into homeopathy, especially to have the top things on hand. I am offering a discount on these well, I'll show you in a second. But there's the 50 remedy kit. So it says, nothing's more frustrating than realizing you need a remedy for yourself or loved one only to discover you don't have it. This is just a little bit cheaper than buying, well, it's a lot cheaper, honestly, than buying 50 different remedies that might be $10 each. So that would be $500. This one's $172. It's a great way to have the top remedies on hand. This one's just a lower potency. If I was going to buy one of these two, I would go with the 200C for acute cases. And then we have the top 100 kit for $221 versus $1,000 if you bought them individually. So this is just a super great way to keep these kits on hand, and then you have the remedies when you really need them. Is there anything else I want to show you here? Oh, one thing they do have is the Homeopet and the Equiopathics, which is for domestic animals and horses. So they have a line of stuff too for your animals, and for also like anxiety relief and stuff that you want for your pets, like bug bites, detox, pet cough, digestive upsets, feline anxiety. You see lots of good stuff. So remember their website, and you can order direct from them. They have really, really good quality products. It's the ones I use if Hannah Kroger doesn't have a remedy that I want. This is my go-to. And my second go-to, even though it's more expensive because of shipping out of the country, every once in a while you'll want a remedy that Washington homeopathics may not have. And then I special order from Helios, and they're in the UK. So the disadvantage of Helios is they're based on the British pound, so you have to pay the conversion to US dollars, and you have to pay postage from Europe, but they have more remedies than Washington. So if there's a remedy you can't find with Washington that you read about or you want, Helios is probably the largest selection of anywhere that I know of. And I've never had a problem ordering from them. It takes a little bit longer because it's from the UK, but you can pay extra for quicker shipping if you like. It's just a good resource to know about. Okay, the next one having to do with products. These are the acute remedies that are Hannah Kroger products that you might consider having on hand. These are homeopathics, and these are all either $10 or $15, just depending on. Some of the remedies are 10 or some are 15. I guess because some of them became special order. So they have the arnica, they have aconite, rescue. She has a great brown spider remedy, a black widow remedy, rattler, scorpion, dog bite, rust tox for poison ivy, an abscess remedy, allergies, apis for bee stings, flu, hypericum for the puncture wounds, ipecac for the intestinal issues, which is a great one to take on trips, shock, colloidal silver homeopathic, a staph remedy, a strep staph remedy, and a tetanus remedy. These are all really, really good to have on hand. But you know, if you live in the country, you might really want the spider remedies and stuff like that. You kind of know what your exposure is if you travel a lot. If you always eat the same foods and you're preparing them, ipecac may not be as necessary as if you're like an international traveler. And then I put on here this Washington Homeopathics top 50 remedies. The kit is $122 before the discount, so you may consider getting that kit. I can offer a discount on that one because I can order it direct. Okay, then there's some protocols or some combination stuff that I use a lot, and if someone calls me with a specific issue, they're kind of going to get these remedies. So I'm just telling you what they are. So if someone has a kidney bladder infection, it's herbs, etc., kidney tonic with cran bladder relief, a 1 ounce bottle, and phytocillin 2 ounce bottle. So these three remedies together are $63 before the discount, but they work really great for kidney infections. Again, if they take it right away. If someone gets to the point that they're going to the hospital for a kidney infection where they're bleeding, you know, they're going to probably need antibiotics. But if they do these at the first sign, then they're going to have a great result. Save them that ER visit. Flu cold symptoms, if it's either flu or cold, it's generally going to be OSHA root syrup, the flu vibropathic, and vitamin C. And then if they have any infection like yellow or green mucus, I'm going to add phytocillin because phytocillin is an herbs etc. product for infection. So they got yellow or green stuff coming out of their nose, and that's a sign of infection. For the stomach, ipecac, homeopathic, Disympro, which is an Apex product for things like food poisoning, dysentery, especially traveling to other countries, and HPLR, which is for H. pylori, but the main ingredient is a really high potency oregano. This can be really good for acute attacks. And then always a good probiotic after remedies or medications for stomach problems or infection, including antibiotic steroids or corticosteroids. I really like the Strengthia probiotics. It's by Apex, and it's super potent, really powerful. Okay, it jumped around. Sorry about that. Okay, and then one last thing under first aid and acute symptoms, but this can also be used for chronic, is topricin. It's a topical pain relief, and for people who have neuropathy or like hypericum is really good for nerve pain, like from an injury, like you just hammered your finger. But topricin can be helpful for that too, for like past the initial injury, but also for neuropathy and pain that's like diabetic nerve pain, sciatic nerve pain, stuff like that, you know, where you need a topical pain relief. It can be used for acute issues or chronic. I found it to be super, super good. Wovenzyme, I don't know if they still make the cream, but I started using the Topricin because my clients were having better results than the Wovenzyme cream. Wovenzyme also makes a good cream. I just stopped using it because people had better results here with the Topricin. Let's see, I think that's about it. Tonight I mentioned it was not going to last an hour and a half just because of, you know, getting through these products. I mean, there's probably this many more we could add that are less popular products. I didn't want to keep you on tonight just for the sake of keeping you on, but I wanted to cover the material. What I want to do is I want to go back. We'll stay on like maybe 10 or 15 more minutes just to answer questions or listen to comments. I do want to go back to the beginning, though, and flip through the screens and tell you which ones is a must-have to me. Some of them I've kind of emphasized, but you can maybe make a note. You can also go online on any of these and look up arnica, look up its benefits, and you're going to find a lot more that's in the PowerPoint. Like I said, if you look up just arnica, I'm going to give you another reference that you guys will like. There's a website I use a lot when I'm looking up homeopathic remedies for clients. It's homeoint.org, and it has every materia medica there is, which would be like a homeopathic dictionary. And you can go here and pull up the full aspects of a remedy. Like, let's say tonight I mentioned like 2 or 3 things that you're like, well, they sound very similar, but you really want to know the attributes of each one. This is the best website online, and it's free to find all the references. But I'll show you how long some of these references are. They're like really pretty amazing what all's been documented for one single remedy. This will come up in a second. In the meantime, if you guys have a comment or question, or even like you might think of a flower essence or essential oil that I didn't really go into essential oils too much, but there's some great essential oils like oregano and citrus and different ones that are used for different qualities as well. So if I go to any of the materia medicas, which it says MM, and I just want to show you arnica because I'm always kind of blown away what one remedy can do if it's the right remedy. Like right here is arnica. You just kind of find by alphabet, and then you pick the remedy that you're interested in looking at. And this says, you know, it tells you the history of arnica. It tells you what it's used for. It says, like, for instance, it may be said to be the traumatic par excellence. So it's going to go into all of the appropriateness of the remedy or the, you know, what's going on. It says right here causation. So this is the underlying cause of when you might really consider the remedy, like mechanical injuries, fright, or anger, excessive venery, vaginitis of female, impotence of the male. And then you get into all the symptoms, and this lists everything that can go wrong that aconite would work for. And so these references are huge. If you print these, they're like, you know, 4 or 5 pages long. That's why in the PowerPoint I just had to pick some things. But these will really help guide you to the right remedy. You know, especially if you have like that 50 remedy kit or the 100 remedy kit, you can, another way to look up homeopathic remedies to help you, like if you're not really educated or know anything about homeopathy, is you can just put like stinging, burning, pain, put your symptom in your browser along with the word homeopathy, and it'll probably guide you to a few remedies that you can use. And that's another reason that having a homeopathic like 50 or 100 or 200 kit can be really beneficial, because like this one shows Urtica urens for stinging, burning pain. I know arsenicum can be used for stinging, burning pain. So you can just do a search and just look at what shows up as the top matches, and then you can go and look and see if the rest of the remedies fit for that person. That's what I do all day long with people, because I know some of these by heart because they're really common, but some of them I don't know by heart, and I have to go look them up. So I would do the same. So arnica you definitely want to have. If you're like, if you have a, you know, bees and stuff, you're gardening, I would have apis as well. because it's good for any kind of insect sting, bite. I like calendula, but I would get calendula ointment. I would get something that you could use calendula topically, so a tincture that you can add to coconut oil, or I would use a calendula ointment like the Be Gone product. Chamomile, I would have a chamomile tea. I would buy a box of chamomile tea and have it as a backup because you can use it as a compress and you can make a tea with it. Hypericum, I would have on hand because hypericum is good for tetanus. Hypericum is good for hitting yourself or a puncture wound, stepping on a nail, stuff like that. Ipecac, I would keep on hand if you travel or you're prone to stomach issues. Rust tox, I would keep on hand if you're sensitive to poison ivy. And I would keep it on hand if you have poison ivy, like if you're on a farm or somewhere rural where that's an ongoing issue. If you're prone to skin issues, I would get sulfur and keep it on hand. I would definitely pick some form of rescue remedy to have because it's just like the emotional remedy. If you don't have a whole line of flower essences or a whole line of emotional remedies, rescue remedy can be used almost for anything. I've already mentioned the arnica cream. I've already mentioned the chamomile. Well, I don't know if most people have cayenne pepper, but as a spice, it's good to have as a spice just to have on hand for the reasons mentioned, especially if you're already dealing with someone with blood pressure issues, high blood pressure, cardiovascular concerns, or let's say they already had a TIA. I would definitely have it on hand for those people. Poor circulation. A healing salve that contains chickweed and comfrey is a good choice. And I would pick one out of the peppermint and eucalyptus oil and keep those on hand for fevers, respiratory issues, making your own salve for the chest. I don't think you can meet ginger as an anti-inflammatory. I don't know of anything that works better than ginger as anti-inflammatory, and you can use a tincture or capsules, like swelling, stuff like that. Even if it's like a swelling from a bee sting, you could use the homeopathic for the bee sting and ginger for the swelling to bring the swelling down. And this stuff I would try to have, apple cider vinegar, it's a few bucks. After you open the bottle, though, you should refrigerate it because it can become rancid. Vitamin C, definitely have it on hand. Aloe vera, definitely. Epsom salt, definitely. Pretty much all this first aid stuff I would have on hand just because you never know. And you can doctor many things at home. This whole list. Gelatin, maybe, maybe not, but you can just have Jell-O. Just have Jell-O on hand. You can have just some flavor you like. Super beneficial, the baking soda. Probiotics and coconut oil, to me, I would have both of those on hand. Any of these miscellaneous supplies, too, I think are important. I know I'm like saying you should have everything on hand, but on the homeopathy, I tried to pick out like 5 or 6 that you want to have on hand, and on the herbs, 3 or 4 that everyone's going to use sometime in their life. Probably more often than that, probably not sometime in your life, but a few times a year. And then on these remedies, if you want any of these, all you have to do is send me an email. The ones that I would pick out of this is the Osha root syrup. A must-have: Osha root syrup, all heal salve, the Himalayan salt. This is a good brand of the bruises and bumps, the arnica cream. Any of these remedies that you have exposure to, like especially these little things, critters, or poison ivy. If you're prone to kidney bladder infections, that's when I would have this on hand. If you're prone to catching everything that comes around the flu cold symptoms, if you're prone to stomach issues, then this protocol, this 3-part thing. Okay, that's about it. All right, so let me see what your questions are. I'm going to leave this up on the screen. All you have to do is, if you want any particular products or have questions about what we've talked about tonight, this recording will be sent out as a link I'm doing something new that should be up by the end of the week. I've put all of these once a month webinars on a YouTube channel. It'll be live probably tomorrow, but maybe by the end of the week, so people can go back and watch any or all of them instead of me having to send the links every time. So people can just go on whenever they want, and they have time and they want to watch the recordings. They can pause, stop, start, stuff like that. So let me read the question. Would the homeopathic Materia Medica by Burke be better than the one by John Henry Clark, in your opinion? That is a good question, Beverly. So let me show you what I think about that. I'll just show you on here. Let me pull that back up. I think the one by, let me show you the difference. Oh. I can get through here. I have the Barrick one, the black, big, thick book, the dictionary. Clark is more detailed. So I'm going to show you the difference on Arnica just as one example, but you can use the same website for both to find good online references. But let me just move this down out of the way. So if I want to pull up Arnica, I'll tell you the differences. I like Clark better, but I like it because it's more detailed. But sometimes more detail can also be more confusing. So for Arnica, what I like, this is the Barrick one. And sometimes it's more short and concise if you just want to get a kind of a quick feeling. And what I like about it is he has the main attributes in italics and blue. So it says right here in italics and blue, after traumatic injuries, sore, lame, bruised feelings, flu, hot with cold body, like the person feels hot but their body's cold. So I like this because you can kind of look at it as a snapshot and go, oh, this is a good remedy. This fits the main attributes as a remedy. But it's not very long. It's like, maybe a page and a half of typed material. Now, if I go to Clark and go to Arnica, I'm going to get much more on the history, the clinical symptoms, causation, and stuff like that. So when I'm trying to match a remedy, especially in a more complex case, maybe not so much in an acute case, I'm going to get all the clinical diagnosis and symptoms that Arnica can be used for. That's not in Clark. That's not in Barrick. I'm going to get a history of the herb or plant and how it became famous in homeopathy, let's say. I'm going to get the relationships to the other remedies, and I'm going to get the causation. So what would cause the need for Arnica? And then on the symptoms, it's also much more detailed, where this might be 4 or 5 pages if printed. So I would say overall Clark is more detailed, and if you're a practitioner, you might like Clark better. If you're just trying to find more simple approach to why a remedy might be better for somebody, I'd probably go with Barrick. So I hope that's not too long of an answer, but they both have benefits to what you're looking for. Okay, the next question is, when taking a product, do you take till symptoms ease, or do you complete the vial every time? I take them until the symptoms are completely gone. So that's kind of like how you think of taking an antibiotic anyway. You're taking an antibiotic until the symptoms are completely, until it runs its course, like 10 days. It's not true of homeopathy, but 10 days is maybe a good amount of time. So if the symptoms are gone in like 7 or 8 days, I might take the remedy 10 days just to make sure it's completely out of your system, but I'm not going to take the remedy 30 days. But if you get any like little indication of like something coming back or something repeating, like the first sign that maybe you didn't take it long enough or it's coming back, then you definitely want to start that remedy up and maybe take it a little bit longer. The beauty about homeopathy and the herbal remedies, in my opinion, is I see this all the time, and this is like not the time really that I like to give homeopathy, but people will get something. They'll get the crud, and what's the doctor going to do? Give them a shot or give them antibiotics or possibly even steroids if it's really bad. And then it seems like the person just doesn't get well. They're sick for like 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and they have this thing that is lingering, and they just don't get completely well. Then they come see me because the doctor failed, and they're giving them antibiotics for a virus, which actually drives the virus deeper. So by the time they've come to me, they very complicated the case by taking medication, taking a steroid or antibiotics that's driven it deeper into the system, and now it's become chronic, which is not the best time. It doesn't mean homeopathy can't work, but it definitely is not the best time to take it because it's already chronic at this point. It's not something at the first sign that you took something else. So, I mean, I've had, like, weirdly a lot, like more than usual in the last, I don't know, this year, I guess. I've had a ton of acute symptoms, but the good news is on acute symptom we can get somewhere and we can get it out of the system fast and turn it around, especially with things like injuries, but also with the first signs of a cold or flu. But when these people wait and they have these things that go around a long time, or it keeps going around the house, like the kid gets it, then the mom gets it, then the dad gets it, and then the kid gets it again, you know, this stuff just goes on for months. So you really want to break the cycle by, you know, it's really not only giving it to the person who first had it when they first get it so that it doesn't get around to the whole family, but you want to have remedies at home so the rest of the family can take it at the first signs. Now, things like vitamin C, you can take just to take. You don't have to wait until you get a sign. But I wouldn't take homeopathy remedies just because. Like, if I don't have a symptom, I'm not taking the remedy. But at the very first sign of the remedy, like that first little scratchiness, that first little, what is that? I'm taking a remedy just because I don't want to wake up the next day and have to cancel my day because I don't feel good. So if your kid is sick, give them the remedies as soon as you can so that they can wake up the next day and feel fine. That keeps the household from getting sick. But let's say it's something fast acting and the next person gets it. You want to take that remedy as soon as possible because you want to break the cycle in the household. And sometimes on some things, you want to treat your pets as well. Acute remedies don't, I mean, acute things don't really always travel to pets, but sometimes they do. So you want to watch the pets too if they start coughing or if they start having issues. You know, pets are, well, most pets are mammals, and they can be contagious. They can have a shot or vaccine that becomes a live virus. A person can get a flu shot and it's a live virus that can pass to animals. So if your animals start acting weird at the time that the family's sick, give them a probiotic, give them similar remedies, just make sure they're safe for pets. And you can look that up online on, you know, herbs and homeopathy for canine and feline and equine especially. So hopefully that helps answer that question. There's no other questions right now, but I'm going to stay on for a few minutes just in case one of you has a last-minute question. Like I said, this will be posted on the new YouTube channel, and you guys can, you know, pass it on to other people if you think it would be useful. And I would start, you know, you don't have to do everything at once either. I'd kind of take inventory of what you have already as far as first aid remedies and then see what you don't have. I would definitely recommend or consider the 50 and 100 homeopathy kits because basically that is like buying 10 remedies, but you have a lot more options. And I would buy some of the basic things and keep them kind of in one place. If you need them, you have them. I saved my butt a few times, and I'm too stubborn really to go to the doctor or hospital, but in some cases some friends of mine have said, wow, you should have went somewhere because it was bad enough that maybe I should have. But I doctored myself. I'm fine. Recovery was fine, so it's okay. And especially if you're on the road, get to a health food store as fast as you can because that can also be the difference between suffering and pain and swelling and all that stuff over getting some pretty fast relief. I mean, it still may look bruised, but at least you still will be able to function. So I'm just going to sit here for a few minutes if you guys pop on anything else. If you have any recommendations I didn't cover, please share. I'll put my, for those of you that might be new to these presentations, I'll put my contact back up. Gaia, that's a great question. That she says, is there a probiotic for travel that doesn't have to be refrigerated? There are a few. They're usually the ones that are less potent, but Jarrow has a great probiotic that doesn't have to be refrigerated. And I think like the 3-lax and 5-lax, those don't have to be refrigerated, and they come in little packets. They're a powder, and the powders are nice because you can just put them on the tongue and they dissolve. But probably if I was going to go with something unrefrigerated, I'd go with Jarrow, Jarrow. They have a refrigerated Jarrow that is like you find in the refrigerated section of like Whole Foods, but they have a few that don't have to be refrigerated. And my second choice would be either 3-lac or 5-lac. And 3-lac is like a 3-strain probiotic. 5-lac is a 5-strain, but they're good options and not having to be refrigerated. And when you're traveling, that is impossible. So if something is a live culture that demands to be refrigerated, it's not a good travel choice anyway. Thanks, Lynn. Also, if you're in a pinch and you're traveling and you need a good probiotic, you can get a good natural local yogurt, like a real yogurt that has the strains of acidophilus and bifidus and all that stuff listed on the label, like a good Greek yogurt or a liquid yogurt. You know that most countries have better yogurts than the U.S. anyway. So if you are in a pinch and just can find a grocery store, you'll usually be able to find a refrigerated probiotic that you can take like that, unless you have a dairy sensitivity. And a lot of grocery stores at least have a basic supplement line where you might find, like when I was on that second injury I mentioned, I got the arnica at Safeway. So if you, many pharmacies and Safeways and stuff carry arnica because they are so popular. So you don't have to find a health food store always. You can find a yogurt. You can find Himalayan salt or sea salt. You can find, things in a grocery store, cayenne pepper. So don't think you always have to go to the health food store, because in a pinch, some of these things, if you just kind of learn about them, do some research, you can find them at most grocery stores, like coconut oil or coconut, the solid kind. You can find at most grocery stores these days, especially the bigger grocery stores. So just think about those kind of options too, so you have them if you're traveling. Because all these things happened to me, except for the one in my front yard happened when I was traveling. And so I know the one, a lot of you guys know my friend Carol. I called her like hysterically crying. I was really hurt, and I had blood everywhere, and the bone was sticking through my elbow. And she got over here pretty fast, and by the time she got here, she was like, "Oh my God, you probably should go to the ER." But I had her doctor me because I couldn't get to my elbow and properly put it together. And now there's just a little bitty scar there. You can't really tell. But sometimes you need a second person in cases like that, because I wanted it to heal without a big scar, but there's no way I could really see my elbow to do it properly. But if you have the right stuff in hand, you can be amazed at what you can do yourself. Guy is asking a question. There's something equivalent to coconut oil for O blood types. I would use olive oil. Olive oil doesn't come in a solid, but a good raw, or not raw, but cold-pressed olive oil can be a good thing to add herbs to as a topical salve. It's not as thick as coconut oil paste, but it's still a good thing to use. Sesame oil can be a good choice too, in that it's calming, and it's usually really good topically, and it's good for all blood types, but most people don't have sesame oil around. I would use olive oil, and that's what I would use for myself. I don't mind using a little coconut oil as a paste for something topical. I just wouldn't use a lot of it as a blood type O, and I wouldn't ingest it. Gaia, you can get unflavored Jell-O that doesn't have dyes in them. So you can get an unflavored Jell-O. It doesn't have to have flavor to it. So you can get, I think at the Whole Foods, they also have natural Jell-Os, that aren't like Jell-O brand, that don't have all that crap in them, but they're flavored. And with unflavored Jell-O, you can use juice as the water. So you can make it with cranberry juice or some kind of juice that you like, and use unflavored Jell-O and have like grape juice and Jell-O and have grape Jell-O. So there is a way you can buy that unflavored gelatin that's been around forever. I remember my grandmother and mom used unflavored gelatin for skin and nails. So you can get unflavored Jell-O, and when you make it, just use juice. So there's ways around that too. I agree that Jell-O may not be great, but it's a good form of gelatin, and it's a cheap form. Usually if you start buying these collagen powders, they kind of get you on the cost because collagen's real big right now with paleo diet and anti-aging. And they're also, one thing they're selling in stores now they used to not sell is the, you know how they have chicken stock or chicken bouillon or chicken broth? Well, now they are selling the bone broth, like the good stuff, in small and large paper containers, kind of like how the healthy non-MSG chicken stock is sold. And you can buy like bone broth, like beef bone broth and chicken bone broth. So that's another option for collagen, or what basically they're recommending Jell-O for. So those are good comments and good food sources in the grocery store. Okay, well, I think that's all of the questions. You guys have been great. Thanks for attending tonight. And if you need anything, just let me know. And I don't have a topic for next month yet, but I will send out an email announcement when I come up with what the topic will be for July. Okay, thanks, you guys. Have a great night.